3 nights earlier, she wasn't supposed to be in his territory. She had changed her name, changed her city, changed her life. But bloodlines don't disappear. They wait. She moved quietly through the world, never staying too long in one place, never using her real surname, never trusting men in tailored suits, especially not men like him. He ruled the city like a silent storm. Businesses bowed. Politicians smiled nervously. Enemies vanished. He believed loyalty was earned through fear, and mercy was weakness, until the night gunshots echoed outside his private club, until the night his men dragged in a woman bleeding through a white dress, holding twins that shared eyes too familiar to ignore. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know who her father was. And if he had, he might have walked away, but he didn't. And that choice was about to ignite a war neither of them could survive untouched. 3 nights earlier, she had almost left the city. Almost. The apartment was small, temporary. She never unpacked fully anymore. A half-zipped suitcase stayed under the bed. Cash hidden inside a formula tin. Fake documents folded beneath the twins' birth certificates. She moved like someone who had learned not to belong anywhere. The babies stirred in their crib, identical, fragile, unaware of the world hunting their blood. She picked one up gently. "You're safe," she whispered. But she didn't sound convinced. She avoided mirrors these days, not because she hated her reflection, but because sometimes, when she looked too long, she saw her father's eyes staring back. And that was the one thing she could never escape. She had changed her last name the moment she found out she was pregnant. Changed hospitals twice before delivery. Pay cash, no records, no connections, no trace. But power doesn't forget blood. And the city she ran to for safety belonged to the one man her father had tried to destroy for years. She didn't know that yet. That night, she made a mistake, a small one. She went out after dark. The twins had fevers. The pharmacy 2 streets away was still open. She told herself it was safe. She kept her head down, wore neutral clothes, no jewelry, no perfume. Just another tired mother in a big city. But when the black cars turned the corner, her heart stopped before her feet did. Because men like that don't drive slowly, and they don't drive without purpose. Gunshots shattered the night, not meant for her. But power doesn't care who stands in the way. She ran, not away, but forward, shielding the twins against her chest. And when the bullet tore through her side, she didn't scream. She only prayed the babies didn't feel it. The gunshots weren't supposed to happen that early. Inside the private club, the music never stopped, even when men outside were settling debts. He stood near the balcony overlooking the city, calm, unmoved, a glass of untouched whiskey in his hand. He didn't flinch at violence. Violence was language. And tonight, someone had spoken without permission. One of his men approached carefully. "Boss, there's a situation outside." "There's always a situation," he replied evenly. "But then, there's a woman." That made him turn, not because he cared, but because women and children weren't supposed to bleed in his territory. That was a rule, and he hated when rules were broken. When he stepped into the rain, the street had already cleared. Cars gone, targets gone, only consequences left behind. And there she was, on the pavement, white dress soaked crimson, twins crying against her chest. She wasn't begging, she wasn't screaming. She was glaring at the sky like she refused to fall apart in front of anyone, even dying. Interesting. He crouched in front of her, cold eyes scanning for threats first, then wounds. "Who did this?" he demanded. She didn't answer. Instead, she studied him. Recognition flickered in her gaze. Not fear, recognition. That unsettled him more than the blood. One of the twins reached out blindly, tiny fingers curling around his thumb, and for the first time in years, he froze. He didn't like unexpected reactions. He especially didn't like ones he couldn't control. "Get a car," he ordered sharply. "We're taking her." His men hesitated. "Boss, we don't know who she is." Exactly. That was the problem. As they lifted her carefully, her hand gripped his jacket weakly. Her lips moved. He leaned closer to hear. One word, a surname. Soft, barely there, but sharp enough to slice through memory. He didn't react, didn't show it. But something dark shifted behind his eyes, because that name belonged to a ghost from his past. A man who had once burned half the city trying to take his throne. Impossible. That bloodline was supposed to be gone. The ambulance doors slammed shut. The twins kept crying, and for the first time in years, the Mafia boss felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, not anger, something worse. Uncertainty. He didn't take her to a public hospital. He owned a private wing, top floor, restricted access, security on every entrance. No press, no police, no questions. The doctors work fast. Bullet removed, blood transfusion, stitches clean. She was lucky, one surgeon said carefully. He didn't believe in luck. She'll live? Yes. And the twins? Unharmed. Good. He dismissed them with a single nod. Then he stayed. He told himself it was strategic. A woman shot in his territory. A surname he hadn't heard in years. He needed answers. That was all. She woke up just before dawn. The room was quiet. Dim lights. Machines humming softly. For a second, she didn't remember. Then the pain came back. Then the street. Then him. Her head turned slowly. He was standing by the window, silhouette against the pale morning sky, still in the same dark suit, watching the city like it belonged to him. It did. Her voice was weak. "Where are my babies?" His eyes shifted to her, cold, controlled, safe. She tried to sit up, winced. He stepped closer, not to comfort, to assess. "You were in my territory," he said calmly. "People don't get shot there without reason." She swallowed. She knew exactly whose territory it was. She had researched this city before coming. Different name, different damn empire, different devil. But devils recognize each other's shadows. "I didn't see their faces," she lied. His jaw tightened slightly. He knew a lie when he heard one. "You ran toward the gunfire," he continued. "Most people run away." Silence. Because she couldn't say, "I've been running my whole life." Instead, she asked, "Why did you help me?" That was the first crack, a question he hadn't prepared for. He studied her, pale, exhausted, but not weak. And those eyes. He had seen that shade of defiance before, across a negotiation table, across a battlefield of burned warehouses and broken alliances. Impossible. That bloodline ended years ago. Didn't it? The twins began crying softly. She turned instinctively toward them, pain forgotten, only mother now. He watched as she gathered them gently, one in each arm, ignoring the stitches pulling against her skin. Protective, fierce, terrified, but refusing to show it. Something about the way she held them made the room feel smaller, more fragile. He stepped closer without thinking. One of the twins opened wide, curious eyes. Same dark color, same sharp focus, and something inside him shifted again. Not softness, recognition. "Your name," he said finally. A pause. Just one heartbeat too long. She gave him the fake one. He didn't react, but he had already ordered his men to check every record in the city. If she was lying, he would know by sunset. And if she wasn't, then fate had a cruel sense of humor. Because if she truly carried that surname, he wasn't looking at a random victim. He was looking at his greatest enemy's daughter, and possibly the key to ending a war that never truly died. By sunset, the file was on his desk. Thin, too thin. That alone was suspicious. He sat alone in his private office, top floor, soundproof, untouchable. One of his most trusted men stood across from him. "We checked everything," the man said carefully. "Her current name is clean. No criminal record, no family history, no digital footprint before 3 years ago." 3 years. The same year his rival disappeared. Coincidence was something he did not believe in. "Dig deeper," he said calmly. We did. A pause. Then the folder slid forward. Her face recognition flagged an archived image from a charity gala 9 years ago. He opened it, and there she was, younger, no fear in her eyes, standing beside a man the city once whispered about, a man who built an empire from smuggling routes and blood contracts, a man who tried to take everything from him, his greatest rival, her father. The room went silent. Because that man was supposed to be dead, his jaw tightened, but his voice stayed level. Confirmed. DNA records aren't public, but facial mapping is 92% match, and the timeline fits. 9 years ago, she had vanished from public events. 3 years ago, she reappeared under a new name, pregnant, alone, running, and now, shot in his territory, carrying twins. His mind moved quickly. If she was here, it meant one of two things. She was hiding, or she was bait. Neither option pleased him. Back in the hospital room, she sensed the shift before he entered. Something in the air felt heavier. He didn't knock. He never knocked. She looked up slowly. He walked in holding the file. Calm, measured, controlled, too controlled. He stopped at the foot of her bed. "Your real name," he said quietly. Not a question. Her fingers tightened around the blanket. The twins slept beside her. Innocent, unaware that bloodlines were about to collide. "I told you my name," she replied. He placed the photograph on the table beside her. The old gala image, her younger self, standing beside her father, the most dangerous man he had ever faced. Color drained from her face. Silence filled the room. "You disappeared after he did," he continued. "Changed cities, changed identity, had children." His eyes lowered slightly. Why? Her breathing grew shallow, because this was the moment she feared most. Not bullets, not death, but recognition. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then help me understand," he replied coldly. Why is my enemy's daughter in my city, under my protection? The word protection lingered dangerously, because protection could turn into imprisonment very quickly. Her eyes flickered to the twins, and for the first time, fear replaced defiance, not for herself, for them. "You think I'm here to hurt you?" she asked softly. His expression didn't change. "Your father tried to burn this city to the ground." "My father is dead," she said sharply. That caught him off guard. A crack, small but real. "And if he isn't?" he asked quietly. She looked up at him, tired, wounded, honest. "If he were alive," she said, "I wouldn't be running." That line lands, because now the story shifts. Is the father truly dead, or is someone using her? And what about the twins? It started with a sound, not loud, just a distant metallic click in the hallway. The Mafia boss noticed it first. He didn't move immediately. He listened, because in his world, silence often meant danger. Then his phone vibrated. One message from an unknown number. The twins must not survive. No name, no signature, just a threat. His eyes hardened. Slowly, he looked at her. She was holding the babies, unaware. For the first time since he met her, fear wasn't in her eyes. It was in his. He walked to the door without rushing. His men were already alert. Security tightened instantly. The private hospital wing went into lockdown. But the message changed everything. Because this wasn't about territory. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about her father anymore. Someone wanted the twins dead, which meant the children represented something valuable. Bloodline, inheritance, power, proof, or leverage. And in Mafia wars, children are never random targets. He returned to the room, calm again, but sharper. "They're not safe here," he said. Her heart pounded. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned to one of his men. "Find out who sent the message." Then back to her. "Until we know who is hunting them, you stay under my protection." She stared at him. "Protection?" "Yes. And what does that cost?" That question lingered between them, because trust in his world always came with a price. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "Right now, whoever is targeting your children is not my enemy." A pause. "They are ours." That word hit differently. Ours, not hers, not his. Ours. Meanwhile, across the city, a shadowed figure watched live security footage from the hospital. Someone inside had access. The twins weren't being hunted randomly. This was planned. And the message to the Mafia boss wasn't a warning. It was a declaration. The war had already begun. And now, the children were the center of it. Back in the room, she finally understood something. The bullets weren't meant for her. They were meant to send a signal, to provoke him, to pull him into a trap. And she had walked straight into the middle of it. She looked at him differently now, not as the enemy, not as the man who ruled the city, but as the only person standing between her twins and death. For the first time, their interests aligned. And that was more dangerous than hatred, because alliances built in crisis often turn into something deeper, and neither of them were ready for that. The Mafia boss didn't believe in accidents. So when the threat message came, he didn't look outside. He looked inside. His empire was built on loyalty, but loyalty in his world was earned through fear, and fear does not prevent betrayal. It only delays it. He called a private meeting, only his top circle. No phones, no guards inside the room, soundproof walls locked. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Men who once spoke confidently now avoided eye contact. He placed the phone with the threat on the table. One sentence on the screen. The room felt colder. "I want the name of the person who sent this," he said calmly. No shouting, no anger, just quiet dominance. Silence stretched. Then one of his senior men stepped forward slightly. "Boss, the hospital network was accessed using internal clearance." That meant only someone within his organization could have triggered it. His eyes slowly moved across the room. No rush, just observation. That was worse than rage, because when he became quiet, someone was about to disappear. Back in the hospital room, she noticed something strange. Security movements outside, rapid communication, new guards replacing old ones. Something had changed. When he returned, his expression was different, sharper. "You have someone inside your organization," she said quietly. It wasn't a question. It was an observation. He studied her carefully. "You're certain?" She nodded slightly. "If someone wanted my twins dead, it wouldn't just be about revenge. It would require access, timing, knowledge." Her intelligence surprised him. She wasn't just a victim. She understood strategy. That made her even more dangerous. He leaned closer. "Why would someone inside my empire want your children dead?" She hesitated. This was the moment. If she told him the full truth about her father, it could destabilize everything. But she realized something important. The twins weren't safe without transparency. "If my father is truly dead," she said carefully, "then someone may be trying to use his name to start a war." His eyes narrowed slightly. That made sense. Internal betrayal often grows during power transitions, and if someone believed her bloodline could be used as a leverage, then eliminating the twins would remove a future claim, alliance, or threat. He stepped back, thinking, calculating. Then he made a decision. "From now on," he said firmly, "only my personal security handles you." That wasn't protection. That was ownership-level protection. Meaning if someone wanted her, they would have to go through him. Later that night, in a hidden corner of his empire, one of his closest advisors made a phone call, voice low, urgent. It worked. He's focused on the woman now. Pause. Yet the twins are exactly where we need them. The betrayal wasn't random. It was strategic. And worse, it had been planned long before she arrived in the city. Back in the hospital room, she looked at him while he stood near the window. For the first time, she realized something terrifying. The war wasn't just between families. It was inside his house. And she and the twins were now part of the battlefield. She spoke softly. "If someone inside your empire is behind this." He turned toward her, expression unreadable. "Then you're not the only one they're trying to destroy." That statement hung in the air, because now the threat wasn't just about the children. It was about him. And in Mafia stories, when betrayal touches the leader, it always ends in blood. It happened just after midnight. The lights flickered once. That was the warning. Before the alarms could trigger, the hospital corridor doors exploded open. Not loud, controlled, professional. Two armed men moved fast down the hallway, not looking for money, not looking for staff. They were heading straight for the private wing, straight for room 709. The twins. Inside the room, she heard footsteps outside. Too many. Her heart started racing. She reached for the babies instantly, but before she could stand, the door opened, and he walked in. Not rushed, not panicked, calm, like he expected it. "Stay behind me," he said quietly, no emotion in his voice. But his position shifted instantly between her and the door. That was instinct, not strategy. Protection. Gunfire erupted in the hallway. His security team responded immediately, but one attacker managed to break through. The man entered the room with a weapon raised. Time slowed. She froze. The twins began crying. The attacker aimed. And before he could fire, the Mafia boss moved. Fast, precise, deadly. One shot. The attacker dropped. Silence returned. Only the sound of babies crying. He didn't look at the body. He turned to her first. "Are you hurt?" She stared at him, breathing heavily, shaken but alive. No. That was the first time she saw something different in him. Not dominance, not power. Concern. Real concern. Outside, his men secured the building. Within minutes, the threat was neutralized. But this attack changed everything. This was not random. Someone was willing to enter his territory, which meant the betrayal was deeper than expected. Inside his circle, inside his trust network, someone had access to hospital information. Someone knew exactly where she was, and someone knew the twins mattered. Later, when the room was quiet again, she looked at him while he stood near the window, guarding, watching. He didn't leave, didn't delegate, stayed. She spoke softly. "You could have walked away when you learned who I am." He didn't turn, but his voice came steady. "If I wanted you gone, you wouldn't still be breathing." That was the Mafia speaking. But then he added something quieter. "And if someone wants your children dead?" A pause. "They've declared war on my territory." She studied him carefully. "Why does it feel like this is no longer about territory?" That question lingered, because something had shifted. The war was no longer business. It was personal. And somewhere in the city, the traitor watched the failed attack unfold, anger rising, because the plan was supposed to destabilize him, not unite them. And now, he had become her shield, which made them stronger. Together, the truth came out before dawn. The traitor was not a random man. It was his closest advisor, the one who had access to hospital systems, the one who approved security rotations, the one who leaked her location. His motive? Power. He believed the Mafia boss was becoming too unpredictable, too emotional, too focused on the woman. He wanted control of the empire, and the twins were leverage. The plan was simple. Eliminate the children. Blame a rival faction. Start internal chaos. Take over during the instability. But the plan failed, because for the first time, the Mafia boss chose protection over pride. The confrontation happened in a sealed warehouse. No audience, no negotiation, just truth. The traitor tried to justify it. This empire needs strength, not distraction. The Mafia boss didn't raise his voice. You confuse loyalty with fear. One signal. His guards took the traitor away. The betrayal ended that night. Quietly. Permanently. The morning after, The city felt different, calmer. The war rumors stopped spreading. Enemies retreated, because now they knew something important. The Mafia boss was no longer alone, and he was no longer distracted. He was focused, back in the private hospital room. The twins slept peacefully. She stood by the window, holding one child. He stood beside her, not as a ruler, not as a rival, just a man. Silence between them was no longer tense. It was comfortable. She finally spoke. "If I leave, will you stop me?" He looked at her. Long pause. "No." That answer surprised her. "But I will not let you face the world alone again." Another pause, then softer. "And your children will never be hunted while I breathe." That was not a threat. That was a promise. She turned to him slowly. For months, she had run from danger, from her father's enemies, from her past, from her bloodline. But now she understood something. Running hadn't saved her. Choosing trust did. Outside, the sun rose over the city he controlled. But power felt different now. Not lonely, not cold, shared. He looked at her, at the twins, and for the first time in years, he didn't see war. He saw future. She asked quietly, "What happens now?" He replied, "Now we rebuild." Not as enemies, not as pawn and king, but as allies. Maybe something more. The twins stirred in their sleep. One tiny hand grabbed his finger again, and this time, he didn't freeze. He smiled, very slightly, the kind of smile that could end wars. The city thought the war would destroy them. Instead, it united two bloodlines. And in the world of power and betrayal, sometimes the greatest victory is choosing protection over revenge.